The Galactic Council Hall shimmered under the weight of diplomacy and dust. Each species delegation sat in curved concentric rows, like scales on a coiled serpent, glittering with artificial grandeur and the smell of too many secretions from too many worlds. Holograms flickered above each seat, icons of planetary flags, ancestral crests, and rotating data streams no one actually read. In the center stood Counselor Tavar, an elder of the Frost, his translucent, jellyfish-like body pulsing with bioluminescent calm. He raised a tendril, signaling attention. "Let it be remembered once again," he said, voice translated through ancient crystal algorithms. "The first rule, unbroken since contact. Do not provoke the Terran young." A low murmur rippled through the chamber. Some chuckled politely. Others shifted uncomfortably. A few stared straight ahead, like prey pretending to be stone. Counselor Tavar continued, "It is not superstition. It is not myth. It is memory. Let it stand in the minutes, as it has stood in the aftermath of the ice moon disappearances. The dust cloud over Sara Prime. The unfortunate erasure of the Vlok." A nervous Krint ambassador cleared his throat. "With all due respect, Elder, do we truly believe humans capable of such coordinated reprisals from children?" Tavar's glow dimmed a shade. "The reprisals are never from the children." No one laughed. Even the Heshtar, who normally found their own breathing patterns funny, held their breath. Across the galaxy, aboard the Zarkith Empire's warship Dread Pearl, General Adakrak wiped a greasy claw across his chest plate and dismissed the incoming broadcast from the Council. He preferred silence to lectures, especially when the subject involved the Terrans and their impossibly smug approach to interstellar diplomacy. "The ape spawn think their rules bind us," he snarled, his voice like rust dragging over metal. His second-in-command, a thin-necked tactician named Velour, offered a weak smile, mandibles twitching. "The Council frowns on direct action, General." "I do not answer to frowns." Adakrak rose to his full height, over 10 feet of scale dominance, his body armored not by plating, but the calloused evolution of a predator species that had never known defeat on their own soil. His command chamber smelled of blood oil and ambition. He gestured to the glowing map of Quadrant H9, a mostly quiet human colony system. "Send a patrol. Find one of their ships. Any excuse will do. Detain it. I want to see their reaction up close." Velour hesitated. "Even if it's a civilian vessel, especially if it is." On the civilian vessel mirth of morning, 12 human children laughed loudly as gravity games tumbled them across a padded observation deck. They ranged from 6 to 11, each wearing expedition uniforms patched with stars, Jew stains, and the official badge of the Terran Cultural Outreach Initiative. Seated cross-legged near a steaming thermos of cocoa was their chaperone, Meredith Ale. To the untrained eye, she looked as ordinary as tea. Her gray slacks were crisply pressed. Her eyes crinkled kindly at the corners. Her ID tag identified her as a cultural exchange officer, and her satchel was filled with colored pencils, storybooks, and one very outdated emergency plasma blade. "All right, young stars," she called gently. "Let's settle down. We'll be reaching Station Kestra soon, and we wouldn't want to." The ship jolted. Then again. Then came the silence that meant no alarms were working. The comms crackled, and a voice burst through, harsh, guttural, and hungry. "Unidentified Terran vessel. This is the Dread Pearl of the Zarkith Empire. You are in restricted space. Prepare to be boarded." The children blinked. One hiccuped. Meredith smoothed her cardigan and stood. In the docking bay, Adakrak strode aboard like a judge entering a courtroom. His guards, all teeth and ceremony, fanned behind him. Meredith was already waiting, hands politely clasped. He looked past her. "These are the children?" "Yes," she replied cheerfully. "All accounted for. Are you here to inspect snacks?" He squinted. "You understand the seriousness of this intrusion?" "Oh yes," she said, voice bright. "But then so will you." Adakrak motioned, and his guards surrounded the children, who stared up with unbothered curiosity. One began to draw a picture of him on her tablet, complete with flames behind his head. Meredith took a step closer, just enough that her shadow touched his boots. "You've touched the children," she said softly. He bared his fangs. "What will the soft-skinned humans do? File a complaint?" She smiled. "Oh no, dear. We won't complain. We remember." Aboard the Dread Pearl, the children were brought into containment, though not by force. They followed calmly, whispering to each other. One of the older boys, Isaac, pretended to count the screws in the floor panels. The youngest, Lily, asked for crayons. She was given a stylus instead and immediately began etching something into the armrest of her seat. Back on Earth, a soft chime echoed through a deep facility hidden beneath a fictional university. Ambassador Conrad Dufresne looked up from his crossword. "Ma'am," his aide called, approaching with an encrypted datapad, "we've received a field protocol trigger. Hale's badge just flagged yellow." He folded his paper neatly. "Children involved?" "Yes, sir." Dufresne stood and straightened his tie. "Ah, then it's not a yellow. It's crimson-dressed as yellow." Across the galaxy, species began to notice patterns. Human embassies locked down, but with open doors and pastries on the table. Supply routes rerouted themselves with uncanny timing. Communications networks, once considered impenetrable, began playing old Earth lullabies in the background of encrypted messages. On the Dread Pearl, Adacrack watched as Meredith calmly brewed tea in the detention lounge. Her posture was unthreatening. Her smile never wavered. She poured 2 cups. "One for you, General. Chamomile. It soothes nerve damage." He scowled, but took the cup. "I expected more fire from you humans. So far, only manners." She raised her cup, eyes shining. "Manners are just warnings whispered politely, General. If we scream, it's already far too late." At that moment, Velour burst into the room, shaking. We just received word. Station Kestra is gone." "What?" Adacrack snapped. "Gone. No explosion. No distress. No debris. Just not there." Meredith sipped her tea. "Oh dear. Were you using that station? I believe my children waved at it on the way in." Adacrack lunged forward, claws unsheathed. Meredith didn't flinch. She set down her teacup and pressed a small button on her belt. Nothing seemed to happen, until his claws froze midair, then began to retract. His face twisted, muscles convulsing. What did you?" She stepped back, her smile still gentle. "Your ship's atmosphere regulators now filter neurorecall agents. A mild dose. You're remembering things you forgot you feared." Velour collapsed. "Make it stop, please." "Oh, you haven't earned mercy yet," she replied calmly. "That comes after the apology." Adacrack staggered. The children's holding room lights flickered. When they returned, the children were gone. No broken locks. No signs of tampering. Just a single piece of paper taped to the wall. A crayon drawing of a smiling bunny standing over a crater. Meredith stood as if to leave. Adacrack, panting, hissed, "This is war." "No," she said, pausing at the door. "This is manners. War comes if we're rude." She turned, eyes colder than deep space. "And General, we teach our children very well." Then she was gone. The ship's comms sparked to life, now controlled from somewhere else entirely. The ship was being steered, not by its pilot, but by a child's rewritten code. And in the command deck, every screen now showed one simple sentence: "Return the children, or send your gods to apologize in person." The humans had smiled first, and someone finally asked why. The smell of burning circuitry lingered like a ghost in the corridors of the Dread Pearl. Engineers whispered to each other in panicked clicks and guttural tones, but no one dared say it aloud. The ship was no longer theirs. Since the moment that quiet human woman touched a button on her belt, things had changed. Doors opened by whim, lights flickered with rhythm, and systems answered to something unseen. The crew called it sabotage, but sabotage implies chaos. This was something worse. It was order. Ruthless, invisible order. General Adacrack sat in the war room, clawed hands twitching. Before him, 12 screens flickered between data feeds, and the same unsettling phrase: "Return the children, or send your gods to apologize in person." He slammed a fist into the table. "Velour, report." His second-in-command limped into the room, eyes sunken from sleeplessness. His uniform was crumpled, and he reeked of adrenaline and crushed dignity. Communications remain corrupted. Every outbound message is rerouted through their song loops. Internal navigation no longer responds to manual input. Every attempt to reassert command is overridden. It's as if what? Adakrak barked. Velour hesitated, then whispered, as if the ship itself now fears her. Adakrak stood. His breath was ragged. She's a woman with tea bags and fairy tales. We are Zarkith. We do not yield to bedtime threats. A voice from the wall spoke, smooth and familiar. Oh, but you already have. They turned. Meredith Hale appeared on every screen, her face lit warmly, as if speaking over a cozy hearth. She wore her cardigan. Her smile was gentle. Her voice sang with civility and control. General, we've met before, but let me introduce myself more clearly now. My name is Meredith Hale, Cultural Attaché, Protocol 7 Enforcer, and Designated Memory Trigger. I'm here on behalf of Earth's Unspoken Committee. Adakrak snarled, You're a teacher. I was, she said, tilting her head. But my classroom's just gotten slightly larger. He moved to cut the feed. The panel sparked, burning his claws. I wouldn't do that, she added sweetly. You see, what you're experiencing isn't merely technological sabotage. It's behavioral architecture. We're guiding your ship through the past. Velour stammered. The past? Indeed. I thought, perhaps, you'd benefit from a bit of remembrance. The lights dimmed. A low hum began, soft at first, like lullabies played backward, mournful and metallic. The screens flashed white. And then Adakrak remembered things he hadn't lived. He was standing on a battlefield, but not one he recognized. The skies were green. The ground trembled with machines the size of mountains. Terran soldiers moved in silence, weapons humming but never firing until necessary. Every strike was efficient. No war cries. No celebration. Just elimination. Surgical. Relentless. He turned and saw one of the children, Isaac, now wearing a soldier's uniform. Blood splashed across his boots. The boy smiled. Not cruelly, just knowingly. The vision broke. Adakrak collapsed into his chair, shaking. Velour screamed behind him, eyes rolled back. He'd seen something different. Something worse. Each crew member fell, one by one, seized by visions not of nightmares, but of truths. Not horrors made up, but events forgotten. War campaigns that had vanished from record. Massacres without documentation. Empires swallowed without warning. And always, always, at the edge of the memory, stood humans. Smiling. Meredith's voice returned. These aren't fictions, General. These are memories, passed through encoded neurodust in your air. We believe in education. That's all this is. Adakrak growled, coughing blood. You dare use psychological warfare on soldiers? Oh goodness no, she said with a chuckle. That would be unethical. We're using education. There's a difference. She leaned in closer to the camera. Her eyes, once warm, were now still. You thought the children were vulnerable. But the children were never the target. You were. Across the galaxy, responses trickled in. The Farnet League closed all borders to Zarkith ships, citing spiritual contamination. The Vorticans declared neutrality and began evacuating their outer colonies in anticipation of further human misinterpretation. The Heliox Confederation sent a simple transmission to Earth. We are so sorry. We have cookies. Please don't let the children near our cities. Back on the Dread Pearl, the human children had reappeared, seated calmly in the cargo bay, painting colorful spirals on the floor using magnetic dust. Isaac glanced up at a security drone and grinned. Hi there. Wanna help? The drone's feed cut. Adakrak was barely coherent now. He had locked himself in his private chamber, attempting to stabilize his mental state using ancient Zarkith rituals. The room was dark, save for one emergency light, and the hologram of Meredith standing just outside the barrier. You see, General, she said gently, our species evolved alongside predators, not above them. We smile because we had to. We joke because we remember every scream. We offer cookies because our ancestors survived by making friends before eating threats. He gripped his head. What do you want from me? Meredith's smile softened. I want you to remember, not just the threat of humans, but the mercy we extend before we destroy. The ship shuddered. Emergency klaxons wailed. Velour screamed through the intercom. A human fleet is approaching. Adakrak rose to his feet, staggering. Prepare defenses. Meredith tapped her finger on the barrier. Oh, there won't be a battle, dear. They're not here to fight, just to collect the children. He stared at her, his mouth dry. And if we refuse? She blinked slowly, then spoke with a voice colder than vacuum. Then you'll see what happens when we stop remembering and start teaching. Aboard the lead Terran vessel, Ambassador Dufresne sipped his tea. The bridge was silent except for soft music playing, a symphony composed by an Earth child, age 9. The entire crew was unarmed. Ready retrieval, he said. Minimal impact. A technician nodded. What if they resist, sir? He smiled. Oh, they won't. They've met Meredith. Back on the Dread Pearl, a door opened in the children's bay. Meredith stood there, arms open. Time to go, stars. The children gathered their things. Crayon drawings. A metal panel one had reprogrammed into a music box. A small carved figure that looked suspiciously like Adakrak with a pacifier. As they walked out, Isaac paused beside the general, who was still trying to speak. Isaac patted his arm. You're lucky, he said. She likes you. She let you remember instead of disappear. And then they were gone. Every system on the Dread Pearl powered down. Lights. Weapons. Gravity. Then a final message blinked across the bridge, simple and unadorned. This was mercy. And in that silence, Adakrak realized the truth too late. Humans did not start wars. They just ended them with education. And this lesson would last forever. The Dread Pearl limped through starless space, drifting like a beast whose spine had been snapped but hadn't yet realized it was dead. Its engines flickered, uncertain if they still answered to command or memory. The crew moved in hushed, jagged patterns, glancing at corners of corridors they used to trust. Lights no longer came on when summoned. They flickered when obeyed. General Adakrak stood alone in his private chamber, surrounded by blank monitors. His hands, once weapons in themselves, now trembled when idle. The taste of human tea still lingered in his memory, laced with dread. Sleep had abandoned him. So had pride. He no longer dreamed. He remembered. And in those memories, the smiles were never kind. Velour approached slowly, like one might approach a crater where something had once exploded. General, he rasped, his mandibles clicking with tension. They've released us. Adakrak turned, his eyes red-rimmed, face hollowed by more than exhaustion. Released. The children. Gone. Their vessels departed. Left coordinates for the next scheduled lesson. Adakrak stared at him. A lesson. Velour nodded. Their term. He turned back to his desk, slowly lowering himself into the chair. He stared at the blinking console, the only thing in the room still working. A single message on repeat. Thank you for participating in Phase 1. His claws clicked against the armrest. They planned it. Velour swallowed. Sir. From the beginning, Adakrak said, voice barely above a growl. The children, the detainment, the withdrawal. It was all part of the human plan. They never lost control. They gave it to us. And waited. Velour hesitated. Then what do we do? Adakrak rose slowly. His voice steadied like steel left too long in the cold. We prepare. On Earth, beneath the gleaming surface of the international diplomacy complex, Ambassador Meredith Hale descended into an archive that didn't technically exist. Her cardigan was freshly ironed. Her boots clicked softly on marble that hadn't seen natural light in centuries. She paused at a sealed chamber. The door scanned her iris, her voice print, her pulse. Then it opened. Inside, a circle of humans stood around a table that wasn't a table, more a projection of shifting battlefields, cradling stars like beads on a string. Phase 1 complete, said Dufresne, already sipping tea. Meredith nodded. He remembers. Will he talk? Asked another. She considered. He'll try not to. But fear doesn't make loyal soldiers. It makes preachers. The table shifted again. A new location emerged. A star system far from Earth. But not far enough. Operation Phase 2. Perception Management. The room fell silent. And then the lights dimmed. On the other side of the galaxy, a different council convened. A summit of the Nervac Union. A species whose appearance resembled marble statues carved with intention and anguish. Their voices echoed like cathedral bells. We must assess the human anomaly, one said. They call it diplomacy, murmured another. But it tastes like conquest. And their children, a third inquired, not without reverence. Scouts, said a fourth. Soft-faced reconnaissance. Each smile is a probe. A vote was cast. Unanimous. They would observe the humans. From a distance. Forever. Meanwhile, in the trade hub world of Kelvax 3, rumors exploded faster than merchant prices during a solar flare. Bartenders traded tales like currencies. I heard the Zarkets held a dozen of them in a brig. One whispered, eyes wide. 3 days later, half their fleet was being driven remotely by finger paintings. Finger paintings? Strategic codes. Hidden in glitter. I'm telling you, the Terran young are just cute war crimes in slow motion. In a quiet corner, a tall figure in civilian robes listened. His skin shimmered faintly with refracted light, a camouflage feature of the Alari, a species famous for vanishing into forests, data streams, and political ambiguity. He tapped a button hidden on his wrist, sending a short, encrypted message. Contact initiated. The trap smiles. Elsewhere, Adacrack took command again, not through barking or violence. That version of him had died the day he took children hostage. This Adacrack moved with grim patience. We are not retaliating, he told his remaining officers. They stared. We are learning. A young officer raised a claw. With respect, General, what is there to learn? Adacrack stepped forward. His claws traced a series of recent ship losses, dozens, maybe more, each linked to seemingly random encounters with humans. Not wars. Conversations. Trade fairs. Child-led school exchanges. Every incident ended the same. With surrender. Confusion. Disappearances. No wars, Adacrack murmured. Just erasure. He tapped the screen. It flickered to a freeze frame. Meredith Hale, standing among children, smiling as if nothing in the galaxy had ever burned. We will dissect their kindness, he said. We will study the anatomy of a smile. His eyes narrowed, and we will find the blade inside it. The following week, a new transmission arrived at the Galactic Council. Publicly friendly, impossibly polite, from the Human Outreach Initiative. We invite all member species to participate in our intercultural youth exchange program. Learn about Earth's history, customs, and crafts. No weapons allowed. No politics. Just storytelling, cookies, and kindness. Attached was a file marked optional. Icebreaker games for galactic bonding. Most dismissed it. Some accepted. One species, the Oxtari, sent a delegation of adolescents. Not their best, but not their worst. They figured, better to humor the humans than offend them. The children were greeted with song, guided by Terran youths in mismatched shoes and handmade friendship bracelets. At the end of the week, the Oxtari fleet received a data package, encrypted, and when opened, contained detailed maps of Earth's planetary defense grid, written in rhyme. No demands followed, just a note. We hope your visit was memorable. Back on the Dread Pearl, Adacrack sat in darkness, staring at a single still image. The boy Isaac looking up at the stars through a viewing window, one hand pressed to the glass. Adacrack had seen that same look before, on soldiers before a battlefield. But never so calm. He remembered the way the boy had smiled, not wide, not boastful, just confident. Like he had seen the end of a story already and liked how it turned out. Adacrack clenched his jaw. They're not children, he whispered. Velour looked up from across the room. Sir. They're bait. Velour frowned. For what? For belief, the general growled. They make you believe they're harmless. They make you trust. And once you trust, they don't attack. They just end you. He looked out the viewport, into a sea of stars that no longer felt like home. But no more. We will not be the punchline of the universe's favorite joke. Then what's the plan? We flip the joke. The next day, an encrypted message was sent from the Zarkith Empire to every major power block in the known systems. Short, precise, terrifying. We're preparing a counter-program. A cultural exchange. We're inviting the humans. On Earth, Meredith opened the transmission and raised a brow. Well, she murmured. Someone's feeling brave. Dufresne looked up. Shall I prepare a task force? No, she said, tucking the message into her satchel. Send the same children. Same crayons. But this time. She trailed off. Dufresne tilted his head. Yes. Her smile curved. This time, let them draw teeth. Outside, across a dozen systems, humans smiled kindly. And the galaxy, at last, began to understand. A smile wasn't a peace offering. It was camouflage. And it had incredible marketing. The transmission was accepted with ceremony, fanfare, and a teeth-baring grin. Aboard the newly christened Unity's Claw, the Zarkith Empire's flagship for diplomatic initiatives, General Adakrak watched as Earth's delegation arrived. No weapons. No armor. Just small boots on metal, paper signs saying welcome, new friends, and 10 human children stepping off their ship as if this was just another field trip. They carried backpacks. One had a stuffed lemur. Another waved at a drone. And there, standing behind them, was Meredith Hale. Same gray cardigan. Same unassuming shoes. Adakrak's heart thudded like a warning bell he tried to ignore. Escort them to the conference atrium, he told his aide. Be polite. Polite, sir? His eyes narrowed. The humans cherish it. Treat it like armor. We'll treat it like bait. The children were given quarters lined with pastel cushions and fruit juice adapted to human biology. Every effort was made to project goodwill, down to the ambient music mimicking Earth Whale songs. Meredith stood on the balcony that evening, arms resting lightly on the railing, as a fake sunset shimmered across the synthetic dome. Adakrak approached from behind, flanked by guards in ceremonial armor. You came, he said. She nodded. You invited us. And we humans are terribly fond of being polite. You believe that word gives you power. She didn't look at him. It gives us time. You'd be amazed what humans can build while others are busy underestimating us. His jaw flexed. This isn't a warship. We mean peace. You also meant peace when you caged my students, she said, her voice now brittle iron. Intentions don't impress us, General. Outcomes do. He motioned, and one of the guards stepped forward with a sleek holopad. We've prepared a demonstration, a cultural exchange, Zarkith history, combat forms, mathematics, our finest displays of might and intellect. Meredith took the holopad. Her thumb brushed the screen. Combat, as a form of introduction. It's who we are. She looked up, smile patient. So is forgiveness. And fire. Later that night, the children performed their own presentation. One recited a poem about a starfish returning to the sea. Another told a story about the first human to tame a horse, comparing it to making friends with something that could kill you by sneezing. They shared cookies. They hugged their hosts. And behind every smile, they watched. The Zarkith guards grew nervous. One caught a glimpse of a child drawing shapes on the wall and found themselves unable to look away. Spirals, overlapping loops, familiar somehow. Later, their translation systems began defaulting to Earth standard. Doors stopped responding to Zarkith command phrases. A junior officer came running into Adakrak's command center. They've restructured the architecture. What? The children. They've rewritten our core systems. Not destroyed. Just repurposed. Adakrak stood slowly, breath shallow. How? Sir, we're receiving transmission from the children's quarters. He turned to the screen. Isaac appeared. The boy looked older than his years now. Not in body. He still had scraped knees and a missing tooth, but in his eyes, they held distance. Gravity. Hi again, General. Adakrak stiffened. We've been looking through your files, Isaac continued cheerfully. There's a lot of history in here. Did you know one of your great ancestors wiped out 7 moons just to test a fusion cannon? That was a different era, Adacrack growled. I know. So was ours. But here's the funny thing. Yours learned power by displaying it. Ours learned by pretending not to have it. And I think we're better students. The screen cut. Across the ship, lights dimmed. Music stopped. Gravity flickered. For a moment, silence wrapped the vessel like a held breath. And then, over the intercom, Meredith's voice returned. General Adacrack, you have reached the final part of our exchange. He activated the command override. Nothing happened. You wanted to understand our nature, she continued. But you studied the wrong things. Our jokes, our dances, our diplomacy. You forgot to ask why we ever needed those things to begin with. A wall screen lit up, showing ancient Earth, fires, trenches, cities falling. Humanity's history, not sanitized, but unvarnished. We smiled first, Meredith whispered, because our ancestors survived by being nice to monsters. The screen changed again, footage from earlier missions. Every time a species attacked Earth's children, the retaliation came not with guns, but with deconstruction of society, network failures, economic collapse, cultural implosions. No bodies, only empty halls and obsolete languages. And the children always returned home. Your ship has been teaching you, Meredith said. Every override you ignored, every malfunction, those were lessons. Reminders. Adacrack staggered to the main console. I am not your student. Meredith appeared in person beside him, calm, hands folded behind her back. He hadn't even heard the door open. No, she said softly, but you are part of the curriculum. He struck out with a roar, but the blow never landed. A child's voice, gentle, firm, echoed from the walls. Don't. He froze. His limbs locked. Every synaptic relay in his body jammed by an algorithm seated in his neural implants hours ago, while shaking a little girl's hand. We thought you might test us again, Meredith said. But that's all right. We learn fast, too. The ship hummed. Slowly, like a living thing waking from a long dream. One by one, Zarkit systems fell to human control, not overtly, not brutally. Quietly, with elegance, like vines curling around the bones of a ruin. Outside, a fleet shimmered into view. Terran ships. But they didn't fire. They didn't need to. One of the children, Lily, appeared on the view screen now, waving. Hi, she chirped. We finished our project. Adacrack's lips parted, breath shallow. Lily held up a drawing. It showed the Zarkith Empire, with new flags, smiling ones. Below it was scrawled, Shared Custody Agreement, Draft 1. Meredith sighed. We don't want to destroy you, General. That would be easy. But we do want you to remember. And we'd rather not come back. The General, trembling, whispered, What happens now? She stepped closer, her voice no louder than a lullaby. Now, we leave. And you teach your people what it feels like to be vulnerable. To wonder if the next field trip ends your civilization. She turned, walking away, then paused. Oh, and the children left you gifts. Crayons. Some stories. And a fully encrypted file system we'll unlock if you prove you've learned. Adacrack couldn't move. As Meredith stepped back onto the shuttle with her young delegation, the Terran fleet slowly reversed course. The stars swallowed them again. No shots fired. Just memories planted like seeds in winter. Back in his chamber, alone again, Adacrack opened the encrypted file. Inside, there was only one video. Meredith, sitting in a classroom. A chalkboard behind her read, Lesson 1, Why We Smile. She looked into the lens. And she did. Smile. Then she said, Because no one listens when we growl.